Each character had a distinctive thing about them that made them funny. And Mary Richards was plucky.
And you!
Good evening, and welcome to Scrutiny. I'm Ted Baxter.
No matter what happened, she was plucky. She would come right up to it and try to face it. Sometimes she'd fall apart trying to face it, but she was always plucky.
Christmas is just like any other day when you work in a newsroom. You know what I mean?
No.
Oh. You gotta work on Christmas.
I've got to work on Christmas?
Well, that's another way of putting it.
Listen, I never thought that I would be working on Christmas.
It just seems so easy. She can laugh easy. She can cry easy. With just the right, it's real, but just the right edge of comedy there.
Being hysterical will not do you any good.
Well, being calm didn't do me any good either.
Everything will be all right.
You coward.
In a funny kind of way, it's sort of comforting. There's a familiarity to the character because of that. Then you support it with great writing and truthful writing. In other words, they never damage the characters by going for a joke at that shop, which is hugely different from any other sitcom. Never at the expense of the character's truth would they go for a joke.
Well, I'm awfully sorry, Alan, but I don't see how
You don't know what it's like to feel like you're the only virgin in the whole college.
Well, as a matter of fact, I do.
Mary Tyler Moore was just absolutely the most wonderful person to work with. She never complained. If something didn't work for her, she'd really try to make it work.
Murray, would you excuse Phyllis and me for just a minute, please?
Not on your life. I want to hang around and watch you explode.
Explode? Mary doesn't explode. Yes, Mary does explode. It's just that Mary has this long fuse, you see, and people think that they can take advantage of her because she has this long fuse. But Phyllis, every once in a while, the fuse burns down. And then it's
Let me understand this. You feel I'm taking advantage of you?
Phyllis, look, I gave you a job. You are supposed to be...
Filing.
Filing. You are not supposed to be coming in here and telling... She's got me so crazy I can't think of your name.
Murray.
Thank you, Murray. You are not supposed to be coming in here and telling Murray that...
Ted?
Doesn't like his hubby. That's not your job, Phyllis. Your job is to be my assistant.
Co-worker.
Assistant, Phyllis. No, I am not going to do your job for you.
By my treatment towards her, I showed that a male chauvinist is not necessarily evil.
Yes, sir?
Mary, I guess I'm what you'd call a male chauvinist pig.
She wasn't right.
I'm glad we're communicating.
What was wrong with her?
Well, for one thing, when she walked out of here, I didn't watch her.
Oh, you mean, she didn't have any,
Right, no caboose whatsoever.
Well, if that is the case, Mr. Grant, why have I been wasting my time for the last 2 days screening them for skills? I mean, why don't I just march them in here in bathing suits?
Now, you take Mary Tyler Moore. This is a woman who has such a strong ethic, which is why I really liked her, because I have the same ethic. If you're going to do this, it's your spiritual practice. You honor your work.
The whole concept of freedom of the press will be destroyed. And with it, democracy, as you and I know it and cherish it. But don't let that influence you.
Well, I'll just have to go to jail, that's all. It's the right thing. It's the honorable thing. It's the only thing. There's just one problem. I don't want to go to jail. I'm afraid to go to jail.
I've never been to jail, Mr. Grant. I never even had to stay after school.
She was ferocious in service of the work. And so was Mary Richards in a more comedic frame.
Well, we all lived in terror of Mary. She was, as probably well known, a crypto-fascist and a member of the American Nazi Party, and she used to wear boots and carry a riding crop and make the writers all wear little leather bondage costumes and handcuffs. But that's all been documented elsewhere. There's no need to go into that here. If you ask a question like that, you're going to get an answer like that.
Mary, it's cold out there. Everyone's jockeying for position, ready to cut each other's throats. Is that what you want?
You guessed it, Mr. Grant. I want to go out there and scratch and claw for power. I'll stop at nothing in my ruthless fight for the top.
I mean, we realized that Mary was beginning to build an empire. She's not a dummy. But she realized that out of this wonderfully relaxed, supportive family, the empire was about to ensue.
Mary never exercised the awesome power she might have as the star. She didn't play the star card.
She never acted as though the MTM stood for Mary Tyler Moore. She was an actress on that show.
The greatest potential of a character that I'd read in television.
Lou is cranky, but with a heart of gold.
If you don't start shaping up, I'm going to have to fire you.
Do you mean that?
No. This is scare tactic.
Lou was a terrific guy.
I used the bombast and chicanery of my two brothers.
You are so lucky. I am going to tell you everything I know about news. It's worth taking notes.
Oh.
Don't take notes.
Lou Grant was the boss. And as the boss, he was true to his job.
It's embarrassing to have to fire someone on the same day that you gave her a raise.
I would say in the beginning, he was almost vaudeville. He was almost Ed Norton.
Answer?
Mary, did you get that stuff for me?
What stuff?
Mary, come into my office.
When Lou Grant got mad, he really was mad because that's the way Ed would do it. He had such intensity, and as we went along, he learned to play it more internal, and it became really funny.
Excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt, but could anyone tell me why our show is on the air and Ted isn't? Mary was... Oh!
Towards the end, with Mary being less sloppy.
Look at me. Huh? We've known each other for 6 years now. In all that time, did I ever once take you by the hand, sit you down, and tell you exactly what I think about you? What I really feel about you in my heart?
No, Mr. Grant, you haven't.
Oh, there you are.
He would find moments to play with Mary that probably were never intended.
I know what you think of me. Same as everyone else thinks of me. All business, no time for sentiment. Tough, Lou Grant.
Oh, no, Mr. Grant, I don't think that you're so,
What?
Well, usually I do. You're tough, Lou Grant.
But underneath it all, Mary, I think of you, well, I think of you like a daughter, which is saying a lot. Because I have 3 daughters, and one of them I don't even think of as a daughter.
You know, you're very sweet. In a tough sort of way.
Right.
He always thinks about every line. There's no lines that are just said without meaning.
Mary, life is tough.
No, it's not really tough.
What do you mean, not really? I'd give you a cliche, 3 dumb words, and you want to argue with me? I said life is tough.
Well, yes, it is. It's a little tough.
It's getting tougher all the time. I'm not interested in your friend's mother. That's tough. I'm not interested in whether Ted gets his insignia or not. That's tough, too. And by tomorrow night, I got to come up with a bunch of reasons why pollution isn't so bad, or the chairman of the board's going to get pretty upset. At me. Like I said, life is tough.
You're right, Mr. Grant. Life is tough.
And Ed, of course, is a big bear of a man. If you really know Ed very well, Ed isn't cranky, but he knew that Lou kind of suited his crankiness. If he wanted to be cranky, that was the place where he could be cranky.
And when I went to drama, lesser comedy, I retired into my own brooding self.
I think he became just a really wonderful comic performer. I know he'd started out in comedy. I know he'd started out in improv. But then he had gone more and more to drama.
I had done comedy on stage, but had always feared it. Because I never knew what I did or how to repeat the laugh, I guess is the best way I can explain it.
Oh, excuse me. Good. For a second there, I thought I'd walked into the ladies' room.
I feel, again, that actor in that part had a core of central truth that wedded together, which most good actors do. They look for that central truth, and then the comedy and everything else comes after that.
But if you look at that pilot and you look at Ed Asner or Ted Knight, particularly, I think those are 2 that come to mind. Those guys who did that pilot in the first year very well became much, much better at playing those parts.
Go to hell, oranges. Half the time, all you're thinking about when you're eating if you should spit the pit out, or if you should store the stupid thing in one part of your mouth while you're eating with the other part. You can't even concentrate on what you're eating half the time.
Lou.
And even after you finish eating the damn thing, then you have to worry about where you're going to put the pit. Like if you put it in an ashtray, it's disgusting. And ashes get all over it. And it doesn't even look like a fruit anymore. It looks like some furry, gray, dead thing. It gets even more disgusting. How can you leave me, Edie? How can you do it?
Ed's the kind of guy you can't find words to describe him because he's like a rock.
He's a great artist, Ed Asner.
What can I say about Ed except that I'd run away with him tomorrow if he asked me?
It was a wonderful character, and I dusted out my New York accent.
You know, Mary, I've had quite a bit of theatrical experience myself.
Oh, really? No, I didn't know that.
Barbara Streisand and I went to high school together.
Uh-huh.
We did. Well, not exactly together. I mean, she was there 3 years after I was. But it was definitely the same high school.
Valerie I'd known for a long time, and Valerie is a sharp, bright New York. New York is a very operative word in that character. Jewish is operative because there's a kind of wryness and on top of it that certain Jewish women, including myself, have.
Phyllis, I'd like to tell you something.
What?
It is so hard for me to tell you this.
What is it you can tell me? What?
I'm extremely contagious.
And I used to also find my way, Rhoda's way, was I've got to straighten this shiksa out. I'm from the Big Apple. She's Minneapolis. I better set her straight.
Hey, Mary, let me handle this. If you want the cops fast, I can get them here fast for you.
Great.
Hello, police. There's a man with a gun trying to get into my apartment.
Rhoda?
Mary Richards, 119 North Weatherly, apartment D.
Hurry! He's coming in! Rhoda, he's pulling the phone out of my hand!
They should be here shortly.
I had lived in New York a long time. I knew a lot of Rhoda's. I used my stepmother, who's Italian-American, and her sort of attitude it was a tough love kind of attitude. You know, you can look at somebody and say, you look terrible. What is that hat? I mean, and it's with complete love. It's not mean.
Hiya. Mary, what is that you're wearing? You look like a cheerleader for a school of nursing.
So I took two people that I love dearly, my stepmom and my dear friend, and kind of used them as a background for Rhoda.
Valerie nailed that, absolutely nailed that. I think that the reason why Valerie got the part was because in some way I'm a more placating person, strangely enough, and I don't mean that as a compliment to myself, at that time especially. So in a way, I kind of was tentative in the role in a way that she was not.
I was so new to it, I was finding my way. I wanted to hit my marks, but not be thinking about them. And the ideal way to work is to know the material so well that you're not thinking of lines, that you can only say, that's what you do in the theater. And I had come from the theater. So I had to ratchet up that process and kind of try to stay as spontaneous and that I'm thinking it up on the spot and it's what the person, the character is just saying in that moment and yet know where my spot is and is the camera and so forth.
How can you gorge yourself like that and stay so skinny? I'm going crazy with hunger. Well, eat something. I can't. I gotta lose 10 pounds by 8:30.
And I had trouble with the technical stuff, so I went very easy. And Jay got to saying to people, it'll be there in performance. He would know that I would come alive. I probably gave him some, you know, sleepless nights or hard moments of, Valerie, when I'm going to see it.
I had a little trouble with Valerie at first, only because she didn't come alive until the audience was there. Not as a person, but as a performer. But once I knew how good she was and how her process, it was terrific. It was terrific. And she and Mary were so wonderful together. For the rehearsal time, the first couple of days of rehearsal would be a little difficult because Valerie was very involved in where the props went and where she said the lines.
Jim Brooks used to give me a great, he said, Val, you're punching too hard on that joke. You're out there, you're working without a net. Meaning, if you go out there for it and they don't laugh, it's a severe fall. So that sometimes finding another way to say a funny line that will stand on its own, that doesn't die if you don't get the laugh, in other words. And, of course, that's more truth. Then you're not punching a joke. You're really saying something that Rhoda, or whatever the character is, would say.
Hey, they're terrific.
Thank you.
Yeah, they're having a great year.
Oh, about the same as last. Oh, you mean the Vikings?
Yeah.
I found a way with Rhoda that a good underneath thing was I wanted to be Mary. I was jealous of her, but my love for her was greater than the envy. So I could say, I hate you. Look at those hips, you know? Look how thin you are or how cute or tall or whatever.
Believe me, Mary, I'm not putting you on. You were really good. You know how competitive I am. I was just playing myself, Rhoda. Cute and perky and dumb. Hey, you want to know how good you were? You were so good, I was filled with hate and envy. You're not just saying that? No, I mean it. Thanks.
Rhoda's character started to evolve from the clothing, that it was offbeat.
Well, you look gorgeous. Where are you going?
Where am I going? Here, I'm going here. And you dress like
And in contrast, I made sure I never wore anything like Mary, not as tailored.
I'm gonna ask that councilman a question. That's why I'm dressed like this.
Valerie as a person is extremely smart, a very good businesswoman, and a very hard-working actress.
Valerie used to call me her girlfriend, so it was fun for me to be a girlfriend.
She's a great person, and I still am very good friends with Valerie.
Valerie is one of the great ladies of all time. Before even her acting talent, she is a great person.
I never go into a makeup room and they put Kleenex in my collar, you know, when they start to put them in, without thinking of Ted.
Hi. You haven't met me. I'm Ted Baxter, the anchor man.
I know. And I'm Mary Richards. I'm the new,
Wonderful. I've been telling Lou we needed a new one.
Ted Baxter was vain. Everything that went through him came out through his vanity.
Phyllis Lindstrom, my new, co-worker. This is, Ted Baxter.
Hi.
Well, Ted Baxter. How can I find the words?
I don't know.
He was a clown. He was like, it was like commedia dell'arte, and he was the clown character.
I don't know why everyone feels compelled to call cue cards idiot cards.
We just have trouble thinking of you as a cue.
Ted was in trying to find his character. You know, you have to not find your character, you have to find the limits of it, where it lies, how it, and his is a very colorful character, and I think Jay might have thought it was too big or too this or that, and there might have been a little tussling about that.
Well, Ted Knight, as I've said before, just grew into this part. He just took it and understood it and made him funnier and funnier.
And what I have is wonderful. Why do I want something that's different?
Can I interrupt? Let me put it on terms you can understand. Now, let's say you're the Minnesota Vikings. And every time you play the Green Bay Packers, it's a great game. But that doesn't mean that's the only team you want to play. I mean, you don't want to play them every Sunday for the rest of your life. Maybe the little Chicago Bears, Kansas City Chiefs, little Houston Oilers.
He came at the character in a way that I don't think anybody even imagined. And the more he did it, the more Jim and Allan and the other writers could write into his penuriousness, his self-involvement.
If there is nothing else, I have work.
How about my partner, the anchor man? I'm sure it'd be easy to punch it up a little. I mean, it's so rich with material.
Actually, it was the hardest part to write.
Oh, why's that?
Because, Ted, basically, I consider anchormen to be colorless and dull.
Many of them are. Work on it anyway, will you, Murr?
He was dynamite. He would lift a scene. He would walk into a room and lift a scene. And oddly enough, he was never that happy with the character. It was a character that everybody loved. And he always thought it was kind of beneath his acting talent and that people were making fun of him by the character.
It took a while for Ted to catch on with the audience. Once the show got on television and they saw him and they knew who he was, he would get his laughs. But he always wanted to know, how did I do, you know? Did I get him tonight? I think I got him, right? Yeah.
When you needed a laugh, that's where you went. You went to Ted, and he would always deliver.
Ted, I'm sorry. Rhoda made a mistake. These are the wrong numbers.
Stand by, everybody. No, what's wrong is I'm standing on this mark, and that man is going to throw his finger at me, and I'm going to have to say, welcome back to election headquarters.
Their introduction of Georgette to Ted helped gentle him a little bit, and if Georgette loved him, there must be something there to love.
So, how's married life, Ted?
You know, I never thought I'd say this, but it's the most wonderful thing in the world having a wife. A wife! Someone who makes you breakfast in the morning, has dinner ready when you come home, someone to rub your neck when you've got a headache, is always there when you need her.
Gee, I wish I had one of those.
There are certain shows that the writers wrote basically about Ted Knight for the Ted Baxter character.
Where did you get the mustache?
Oh, you mean this one?
Yeah.
Oh, it's just a temporary until the real one grows in underneath. How do you like it?
Oh, well, it's very nice.
Makes me feel like I'm with it, you know? What do you think, Murr?
I like it better on your hand than on your face.
Pretty clever, eh? You know, it takes most people a month to grow a mustache like this. But with this, I can look like this right away. Then in a month, I'll have a real one underneath that looks just like this. And when I take this off, I'll have all that, and that'll look just like this.
Ted.
Don't, Mary. He may repeat it.
The wonderful moment where it really pays off in Chuckles is when he's given this horrendous eulogy, which I just loved. And talk about writing, that speech began, leaving 14 people condominiumless. It's such great writing.
I remember Chuckles used to recite a poem at the end of each program. It was called The Credo of a Clown. I'd like to offer it now in his memory. A little song, a little dance, a little seltzer down your pants. That's what it's all about, folks. That's what he stood for. That's what gave his life meaning. Chuckles liked to make people laugh. You know what I like to think? I like to think that somewhere up there tonight, in his honor, a choir of angels is sitting on whoopee cushions.
Because his character was so into being so self-centered, actually playing with him wasn't all that fun because he could have done his part in a vacuum.
He had this wonderful little duck's ass. When he would strut around on that stage, and that little blue blazer of his would part at the seam in the back because of his duck's ass. He'd always make you laugh.
I found him as a person incredibly professional and willing to work, and he had none of the qualities of Ted Baxter.
He was a lovely man, just a lovely man, and great to work with.
I immediately knew he was a true family man, and I loved that about him.
Ted Knight was fabulous. He was not near as dumb as his character. Mary was who you wanted to be. Rhoda is probably who you really are. And Phyllis is who you're afraid you'll become.
What's the shattering news?
Oh, well, I got a long-distance call today, and I was on the phone for 45 minutes. And guess what?
Your boyfriend's coming to see you.
That was Mother's news, Beth.
I just got the sense of that she was like the sure, firm touch on the wrong note. Trying to be perfect is what makes her so frustrating.
Mary, I cannot tell you how satisfying it is to be working again. Most people would say, Phyllis, you have everything. What more could you possibly want? And I say, well, it's just not enough for me. I mean, being a model wife and a perfect mother. You know how I am. Mm-hmm.
I mostly wore my own clothes. They would piece in something else or get something if it was needed, but largely I wore a lot of my own clothes.
You know, the controversial psychiatrist who wrote that great book, Don't Be Embarrassed About SEX.
Mary says that I told her one time when I look at a script and I see a stage direction, I cross it out and write opportunity in.
The first time she did something and she sort of wandered around the set and we never rehearsed that. And she got a big, big laugh. And I went to her afterward and I said, Cloris, that was really wonderful and very funny. It's a shame we don't have it on film. And from that moment on, she started realizing that she just couldn't wander around the set because the cameras didn't know where she was going.
Morning, all. Hi. Everything is beautiful. Guess what? Lars was in error when he thought he had varicella.
Chickenpox.
She was disciplined when she wanted to be, but she also wanted to have that freedom to experiment and do different things.
I know, I'd look at my script and I go, and it was just about time, and they'd be reaching for the script, I go, and then fling it and open the door and say, hi, hi.
Hi, hi.
Much of what I did in as Phyllis on the Mary Tyler Moore Show was dance. I mean, I'd say, oh, Mary, you've got to wear my earrings. You know, they're just gorgeous. You look wonderful. In fact, they're $1 million earrings. You know, if there's anything lost, if they got lost, I'd just kill myself. So, but please, she said, well, maybe I should. No, wear them, you know. And then I'd say, well, let me just wait a minute. And I'd start to run off, And instead of just saying, oh, I would run off and almost run low and get up on my toes and make a turn and swoop back down. It was a very dancey, balletic thing that I had fun doing.
My best earrings, antique gold.
Oh, Phyllis, they are beautiful.
Thank you.
And they are perfect with this
Of course they're
dress.
perfect. Why do you think I ran downstairs to get them? They really do look great.
Thank you.
Just be very, very careful with them. They've been in my family for generations. I don't know what I'd do if you lost them. They're insured, of course, but you know how mother hands them down to daughter and mother hands them down to daughter. Thank you, Mary.
I mean, you can move like this, or you can do it broader, or you can leap that way, and it can get bigger and bigger.
All the inconvenience. I have to fill out all the insurance forms. I have to have a whole place repainted. I have to buy a new door. Why does everything always happen to me?
And of course, the relationship between Rhoda, and Phyllis grew, that antagonism.
We always have on some documentary or special affairs program or such.
Oh, this is true. I dropped by Phyllis's one day, and there she was, sitting watching a stimulating educational program. It involved this group of well-informed ladies guessing if there was a home freezer hidden behind a curtain.
No, I do not recall the occasion. I'll have to ask someone, possibly my husband, a man.
She embroiders, she works very differently than a lot of great actresses do, in that she embroiders the part step by step by step by step by step until she has it right. And then she can allow the rest of the world in.
Are you having Rhoda for dinner again?
No.
Oh, I see. But you have a place setting for two.
Yeah, that's right. You see, sometimes I like to switch places in mid-meal.
You don't want to tell me. That's quite all right. You're entitled to your privacy. I don't care who you're having for dinner. Since I don't care, why don't you tell me?
Cloris, on the other hand, presents the perky little non-Jew who is just so perfect and rattles off all the best, the French phrases, this and that.
Phyllis Cloris is Cloris. She's a nut, and she's wonderful nuts.
Murray Slaughter, well, he was very easy for me to associate with.
Murray.
No, I know just what you're gonna say.
Would you write a speech for Ted?
Oh, Mary, I'd love to.
And he was a guy that went to work, and he took the news, or wrote about the news, and butter lips would just blow it every time.
The woman who didn't know one dog from another was a vegetarian.
Veterinarian!
It was kind of frustrating. He tried to write a play once, and the play didn't succeed. He's like every man in a way. He is like that brown bagger, the guy that brings his own lunch, the guy that's saving to buy, a guy that's moonlighting so he can buy his wife a car. He's like a lot of people in life who are not having it too easy.
I'm a lucky guy. I enjoy this crummy job. What's so bad about being a no-talent failure? Oh.
Gavin MacLeod had the toughest job on that show because his character was basically a wise guy. And in order for the character to work on the level that the rest of the characters in this piece worked, Gavin had to bring a kind of humanity to it.
Hey, listen, you said you voted for Peterson, didn't you?
Yeah,
You mind my asking why?
sure. He was a mo.
A mo?
Yeah.
What's a mo?
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
And that's how you vote?
Well, not for the president or senators, but with councilmen, municipal judges, and sewer bonds, I vote the straight mo ticket.
He became very proficient at the character, which is probably the most difficult character of all in terms of the men.
I think he was basically flamboyant. The first script, I think, had him taking, it was a typewriter then, it wasn't even computers. Something when he'd throw the paper out of the typewriter, and he was very, very volatile.
I got it solved for you, Lou. How? I dug up this film of a 1952 traffic jam. All traffic jams look alike.
That solution could cost us our license, Murray. We can't pull off a 1952 traffic jam as the one we're having today. The FCC takes a very dim view of that.
Read my lead.
Today's traffic tie-up was the worst since 1952. Which, you'll all remember, looked like this. Murray, I love you.
Gavin constantly had that sense of affection toward Mary, and he was a very central character for making us love the newsroom.
What? Murray, we said we weren't going to exchange presents.
Oh, I know, but, well, I felt so bad about you not being able to get home and all. I hope you like it.
Oh, but Murray, the point is we did discuss it, and we decided no presents. Oh, well, I don't know what to say. Except, here's yours.
Oh, gee, man.
Merry Christmas. I know.
Gavin made Murray love Mary. Murray loved Mary.
You know, it must be hard for a wife to understand that her husband and a single woman can be just friends.
Yeah, but we are.
I know.
He didn't have flashy parts, and he just was always there and reacted. You could always count on a wonderful reaction. And whatever he had to do, he did it really well.
Best news writing. Which story of mine should we write in?
How about that story you did about that large thingamajig that somebody found and he took it to the police? Or, no, he took it to his mother, and then they did something with it.
Yeah, who could forget that one?
He loved his space. He loved sitting at the desk and doing his little things and saying his little stuff. And he loved that, and that made us love that space too and want to be in it with him.
Anybody who cares a lot could get frustrated if they think they should have more to do, or they're being written wrong, or this or that or that. I think he was very graceful with his role and enjoyed it all. He was a very open, loving person.
I don't know anybody that I've gotten hysterical, where tears are coming down your face. He has such a funny bone. He gets my sense of humor, and I get him.
I think Murray slaughtered today would be a grandfather. I mean, wow. He, never thought about this. He might not even be in Minneapolis anymore. He and Marie might be taking cruises on princess ships.
It actually was unlike anything else I've ever experienced.
Why do people always send flowers when someone passes on?
What would you suggest, dear? Fruit?
Georgette was, on the surface, a space cadet.
Hi, Mary.
Hi, Georgette. What brings you here?
Ted, he's parking the car.
Oh.
Well, when she first was introduced, she was just as ditzy as can be.
I mean, she was El Flaco, maybe one of the original flaky blondes.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Sue Ann.
Surprise!
It's not a surprise party, Georgette. She expected it.
Oh, expected.
And the fun thing is over the episodes, the writers had fun having, once in a while, profound things come out of her mouth.
I'm starting to wonder if you've ever been serious about wanting to marry me.
A man doesn't spell out things with his socks unless he's serious.
Ted, if you really wanted to marry me, you wouldn't talk about it, you'd do it.
I'd do it right now if we could.
We can, Ted. We've had the blood test. We have the license, and it's still valid. We can call and get a minister over here. We can call our friends and tell them to come over here. What else do we need? So what do you say, Buster? You still want to get married?
You talk about naive. Georgia was innocence personified.
Murray, how long are they going to keep Mary in jail?
Well, until she tells them what they want to know.
And when is she going to tell them what they want to know?
She's never going to tell them.
Oh, maybe she should take another toothbrush.
Georgette was a very high spiritual being. She was somebody who saw way past the outside and really saw to the essential goodness in people's souls, everybody's souls.
You're certainly not impetuous. Boy, I mean, that's one thing I could never say about you, is impetuous.
Mary, I know what you're getting at. And believe me, I know how Ted can be. Nobody knows that better than I do. But I know how I feel.
You do love him, then?
Of course, Mary. Somebody has to.
One of the most fun scenes I ever had was a little toss-away scene that they gave Georgette to go negotiate with Lou Grant for a raise, and that was written just so deliciously.
Look, Georgette, I'll give Ted another $2,000 a year. How's that?
But you can't afford it. I don't want the station to go into debt.
The station won't go into debt. They got more money than they know what to do with.
Well, okay, but only if you think it's fair.
Georgette, it's not a question of what I think is fair. It's a question of what we'll be able to agree upon. Do you understand now?
Sure. What do you think we should agree upon?
Look, I'm willing to give Ted another $4,000 a year, and that's my final offer.
Are you sure you don't want to go back to 2?
I might go to 5.
Okay, we'll take the 4.
They had Georgette do a little dance, which entailed a lot, getting a choreographer, going into a music studio and recording with the orchestra, and we did this little teeny steam heat number. The show was running way, way, way long. And Mary was determined all the work that had gone into that little steam heat number it would get on. Do you know who offered to give up their lines? Mary and Ed. I always tell people my favorite. Nobody ever lets it be known that it's my favorite.
And Georgia Engel is such a unique actress. Very much like Valerie in that you really didn't know what she was going to do, and she really understood the lines. She would go home at night and just learn her lines. Now that it had been staged and she knew everything, she'd learned it, and then come in the next day and you'd start to see performance.
One person on the show who never questioned any line.
You talk about Georgia Engel. There is nobody like her in the whole world. She is a real individual, and she is one of the most talented girls I've ever seen. She sings and dances, and she does everything.
She just sat there and really saw the essential goodness in everybody. And now to find out what George Engel's life is and was, I go, well, of course. She studied it, she is it, she lives it. So even though if she ever listens to this, my hat's off to her. You know, I think she lives the good life.
Well, they had part of this icky, sickening, yucky Happy Homemaker.
I just feel terrible going off and leaving you with all this cleaning up to do.
Oh, no, please don't worry about it.
But it seems so wrong to just run off.
No, Rhoda will help.
Well, all right, if you insist. But remember, dear, do try a little iodine for that scratch on the desk. And baking soda will bring that grease up out of the carpet like nothing. Oh, dear, don't throw away those coffee grounds. They're the perfect plant food for Mary's geraniums. Now, if you want to tidy up in a hurry, think of your living room as a big clock. Start at midnight and then go around the room working clockwise toward the kitchen. You'll be done in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail.
To be able to go the other way with Sue Ann was great fun, to play against character.
Oh, hi, Mary. Hi. Guess what, Sue Ann? The greatest thing has happened.
I've been offered a chance to audition for the at-home show on Channel 10 right here in Minneapolis. Isn't that fabulous? And if I get it, we'll be together just like when we were kids. Oh, come on. I'll buy you dinner and we'll celebrate.
Oh, Lila, that's marvelous. I'm so happy. Listen, I tell you what, you go on down. I'll meet you in the lobby.
Okay.
There's just something I have to say to Mary.
Bye, Mary.
In the show that we did together, where I think that she had an affair with my husband. And so she has a souffle in the oven, and I make sure that that doesn't come out nice and fluffy.
I'm sorry, but this is a very critical time.
Well, I'm sorry. This is a very critical time for me, too.
Oh, my poor baby.
Sue Ann would stop at nothing.
I'm sorry, Mary, but I'm afraid there's only one thing for me to do under the circumstances. Now, I don't mean to break up your party, but I really think it would be better all around if I went out there and pushed her off the balcony.
If, as actors, they had in any way held back and said, oh, I don't want people to think I'm like that, then the roles would not have worked.
I always felt all the characters on the show were a little bit a seed of the people and magnified for comedy, except for Betty.
Jay had all the other people be amused by her, not be irritated by her. If the rest of the cast had been irritated by her, the audience would have been.
Hi, people. Hi. Isn't it simply beautiful out there? I mean, snow always inspires such awe in me. Just consider one single snowflake alone. So delicate, so fragile, so ethereal. And yet, let a billion of them come together through the majestic force of nature. They can screw up a whole city.
But it was that willingness to go all the way with, I guess, Sue Ann's selfishness and self-centeredness. And Betty is the exact opposite.
Oh, I always take my Christmas show in advance. That way I can spend the season of joy and goodwill with my only sister in Florida.
Oh, that's nice.
She's kind of a creep, but she's got a pool.
But she was blonde and darling, and I was blonde and darling. And so as I was sort of phasing out, I said, why don't you have Betty replace, be the darling blonde on the show?
I was not there when the character was created. It was in a show that my partner Ed had done that her character came into being, and it was just a ball being on the set with her.
She knocks me out. I mean, she is Miss Television.
I had always been this goody two-shoes, Miss Sweet, live television. I would say double entendre things, and everybody'd say, well, poor Betty, she doesn't know what she's saying.
Betty White's image was goody two-shoes, and Sue Ann Nivens was hardly that.
Well, well, look who else is here. Sue Ann, you remember Ted from the newsroom?
Lord. How have you been, Ted?
Oh, swell, Sue Ann.
What a great bedroom, Sue Ann.
She's a favorite with the guys. The crews love Betty because her humor is sensational.
Betty has a bawdy side that is, probably the more dominant part of her. And she's just had to suppress it over the years.
There's a lot of Sue Ann in Betty.
It remains, I think, the happiest and nicest group of people I ever worked with. But I didn't know that then. And people said to me, this is your first sitcom. You don't know it. This is unusual.
So it did become a family. We would sit around and talk about life. And I tell you, we all went through many changes in those 7 years.
When you're in a close cast like that, if you like each other, and if the vibes are right, I mean, you would die for each other. You just really, you are a family. It is a second family.
You knew you were with a family of lovely people.
I thought the atmosphere of the Mary stage, all the people, all of them, from the least important of the crew right on up through the stars and the writers and the producers and so on, was always unusual.
But what happened is, as the show progressed, maybe in the 4th or 5th year, we knew how to do a scene. I mean, we knew whether it worked or it didn't work. And so we'd get up and we'd stage it, and we'd run it a couple times, and we knew it. We knew, okay, this scene works. So then we'd sit down and we'd sit around the table and we'd talk about life.
Even little frictions that would be between, sometimes Ed and Ted would get along less well than other times.
Well, which isn't to say they didn't have some wonderful arguments, particularly on Wednesdays when they would do the run-through, and Jim and Brooks and Jay Sandwich would start hollering at each other.
I had to get used to Jim Brooks and Jay Sandwich because they would lock horns.
I don't remember Jay and I fighting. Do you remember Jay and I fighting?
Jay does, but I don't either. No, that's honestly...
He used to be mad at the two of us once in a while.
He liked me better.
He did.
Yeah, he liked me better.
Jim Brooks was kind of funny. I was introduced to him, and he said, "This is a democracy here, Dave. It's all a democracy. Everybody's equal, but cross me and you're gone."
They were just so bright, and they could fix anything. If anything wasn't working, they'd just come up with something immediately.
It was difficult for me as a director working with Mary and Valerie and Cloris because they work so differently.
I subscribe to everything Jay is saying about the women because they do. They're 3 different styles. You know, it was easier. It was just easier. And I think in many instances, it's just because, and I mean this in a nice way, men are easier to get along with than women.
Yes, we had different styles, but we learned quickly how to work together. And I completely lay that at the feet of Jay Sandwich.
Rehearsals were trying to get these 3 brilliant actresses to at least one time before we did the show, let me see what the scene was about.
I do remember Jay being just wonderful, and he'd say to me, "Look, you guys, we got to see it."
We found hours being spent on working the girls' scenes into shape while we were standing around twiddling our thumbs.
I used to watch Jay work with the ladies, and it was fun. It was wonderful,
We want to work, and we thought they were coddling the women. Childish jealousy.
That really was rather grade school of us.
It was a lot of work for a while to work with the 3 ladies. Then after a while, when you really knew they were going to do it, and they didn't have to show it to you, you knew they'd get it when the show was there, then you could relax.
Mary was a great help. Mary once said to me, I'd say, I don't know the show well enough. She said, "Val, in the ring," she just took me by the shoulder. She said, "Just think about A sequence," meaning the first scene. "Don't think of anything else, only that, focus on that." And we would run the lines right before the show, before the scene. We'd stand and do what they call a fast run, just to familiarize ourselves. Then we'd go out and do the scene.
Ed would be slow all week long and then gradually gain speed toward the end of the week with mostly Jay Sandwich, flogging him.
Because Mary insisted on rehearsing 5 days a week. She always wanted to rehearse. I have worked other shows where rehearsals really didn't matter that much, but Mary loved to know exactly what was going on, and I really respected her for that. But it gave us an extra amount of time.
Everybody was perfectly cast, and everybody delivered.
One of the actors would do something with the scene that you hadn't envisioned and would make it better, and usually, almost always, it would be better, or he'd work something out with Jay and they do something, and it would just make the scene better.
I think I was the only one who was always have another idea and on another idea and another idea. And come on, that's fine. We don't have to keep improving it.
It's not like they didn't each have egos and whatnot, but But when it came time for the game, they were all going in the same direction.
All actors have problems from time to time. Why would I say this? But the cast was just the best cast I've ever worked with.
We had some fun together. I remember when we first started, we were at General Services in Hollywood, and Ed and I had nice dressing rooms, and there was like a lean-to outside, and that's what Ted was. And Ted used to call it his Pizza Hut, because he said, I got to go change in my Pizza Hut, and you guys have bathrooms and everything, you know.
Valerie once gathered us all up, hired limousines, took us to the airport, had airplane tickets, took us up to San Francisco, booked us in a hotel, the entire cast, everybody.
We went to 2-hour lunches, and we had maybe a vodka or two with them. That first year, I drank a few good doubles at lunch. And the weight showed by the end of the year, I can assure you.
And we got to know the actors. We went to each other's houses for dinner, and everybody was friendly. And that's not always the case, sitcom staff and cast.
We had some wonderful, wonderful times together. And it was because of the Mary Tyler Moore Show.
The ambiance of that stage was great, to the point where I actually put a plaque on that stage. I put it there, I think partly because it was such a great experience.